Today, that's what Takarsina. Densik Tribasina Hakuya. Densik Tribas. Densik Tribasina. Sanji don't chances and Batan Jigger. So now you're not there, not there, or what. Not trying to something else when I didn't do me or what. Not trying to be or what. Not trying to Musiki, not Chimbuer, Nibayo is somewhere or what. I can let in Nibayoris. Also not in Nivatan China. The not those times Sanji don't chances and Batan Jigger, Chinji Lava, Densik Triba, Dimbi Silkon, Josora, Densik Triba, and Leaders. Then in the Tasta, then drinking also the Kathmandu down, Boudha down, and Rigi Natani, Mr. Nibata, Chilat and Tongiers. Teaching the Lion, then Sanji don't chances and about Chinjila, the Densigiers, the big Silva, Densik Tribasegura, what in the Tasan, the Jig, Gorkutella, also Yamante, say, Contacted Jiguay Tepe, Kachamures.
So let's think, for example, when we're practicing mantra, when we're setting some mantras, normally we think this is something that's very powerful, that something has a lot of blessings. And why is this? It's because this was something that was blessed, it was graced by the blessings of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. So these words were made with truth because of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So especially on this holy occasion, it's important for us to practice as much as we can, and this is really important. So normally when we talk about what is it that we need, what is it that we need to do, well, what we need liberation. We need to be liberated. And in order to become liberated, we need to practice. So practice is important. And so how do we do that? Well, there are many different ways.
Dundum Dembala Biro. Remare, Niling Matela, so Dundum Dembala Biro. Niling Mayankan, Dundum Dembasarios. In the then Dundum Demba, the Niling Mumati, and the Hakuni, Trovata, then Junior Dimbitrovas. Junior Koram with Dimba, Nilita, Dimbitrovas. Then Sanjitan Chances and Bagan, Chinjila, Nika, down to Tenzin, the last of the top beyond the Trova. What into the Tenikon, Trodilla, Manda, and Rio Rest.
So one way is liberation through the truth of reality, the true nature of reality. And so this is by knowing what's true, knowing what reality is. And when we talk about reality here, the state of reality, the true nature of things, we're talking about ultimate truth. So when we say the ultimate truth, it's not something that's not real, something that's fake. It's the true state of affairs. It's how things really are. And so this is what we call liberation through the truth of reality, the true nature of phenomena. And also there's, by reciting mantra, which has been blessed by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, there's also ways like that we can be liberated through. So there are actually many different ways that one can be liberated.
Nishinya, Nishinya Didalina, Nishi Dayimana, Yamnachina, Nishi Delumana, Yamnachi, Narasu, Jete Troviorist, Mason Trovati, Digital. What a day does that day, Namjan he chooses and also Namita Tavala, what interest.
So based on understanding what true reality is, then we gain certainty based on that understanding. And then based on gaining that certainty, then we engage in the practice. And this is what will help us for liberation, for gaining liberation. And so usually when we ask what's the most important aspect, the most important thing here for us is the view.
Tawa Jilla Jami, Tawa Yubi Tani Mugi Lamde, Shindin Generales. 신든 좋아. 라면 남지 냠는지 무기기 냠는 제나요? 가르스나. 그 따빙이 시 요비게 무기 제당지가 매비게 제당도 내려왔어. 옛날 따빙이 되는 시 요비게 당시 제다잖네. 아니 무기가 그 라면 남지 그 냠는 제나 신든 이제 니르와라. 그렇지 되는 거더니 딱 그런데 다발죽에 맞추고 그 터버스 때 손에 봤을 때. 다발죽. 수스만. 다발죽 가서 저렇게 공부 토비야 된저기 니르위가 니르람세와 어떤 송바 대형 가서한테 가서다 무기 권이 들어와 다 된저랬을 때 뭐가 당 된저기 조등만 나왔던 내용이었어.
So another way that one may attain liberation is through the practice of Guru Yoga. And when we talk about Guru Yoga, this is a practice that's generally said to take devotion or conviction as its basis. That's a liberation only by means of this kind of devotion. However, one can practice Guru Yoga, one can practice this devotion with the view. And if one practices this with the view, then it's something that's very fast, very swift. It brings about a very swift liberation. So there are actually two kinds of Guru Yoga that one can practice. One can practice without having this certainty in the view, and one can also practice with certainty in the view. And both of these having this kind of devotion. And if one practices with this certainty in the view and with devotion, then it's said that one can attain the state of the Dharmakaya in just 6 months. So actually there are many different kinds of paths that have lots of blessings that can be very swift. So it's important for us to think in terms of ourselves as practitioners, ourselves as Dharma practitioners, to know the practice well. If we know the practice well, then we can get the result. So if one were to just engage in some practice and say, oh, I'm doing this kind of practice, I'm a practitioner, but actually one doesn't have a stable foundation for that. If one doesn't have certainty in the view, then a good result doesn't come out of that. It's not very good for us as practitioners. It's actually very difficult to get a swift kind of result without having this certainty or confidence in the view. So actually it's very important to have certainty in the view. Oh, that's Ling.
Then Jovi Gabla Lapatomba Jonathan in Fangores. Then Jodi Tasu Norbi Lala, Norway Apostle Villa, the Kernin Joya Yonata Yaporva, Tema Lapatomba and the Gilona in Fangores. Then Norbi Lala Lapatomba and Malopache rest.
So if we take an example here, let's take an example that we're in some kind of island. And this is an island of jewels, it's an island of great treasures. So let's say we were to go to this island, and if we were to just go to the island and then return from the island empty-handed without any kind of jewels, then it would be something quite sad, wouldn't it? It would be very sad if we were to go to such an island rich with jewels and then return empty-handed. But if we were to go to that island and to see all of the jewels there and then to be able to take the jewels back with us, then that would be wonderful, it would be very good. Otherwise, just return it empty-handed from such an island would be quite sad. So just like this example of the island of jewels, we also need to recognize that we ourselves are just like this example. We're also in this island of jewels, so to speak. How is this? This is because we have the precious human body. We're endowed with this precious human body. We're endowed with this body which has freedom, and it's very precious, very valuable. And however, that being the case, it's also true that the time we have here is not certain, it's not stable, it's not lasting. So we need to know that every day we have, that time that we have is very precious, very important, and we should not waste the time that we have every single day. And so if we know this, then the time that we have, the situation that we have, is something that's very valuable. So why is it that all of you have come here today? Why have we all gathered here today? Well, we've all come here today to practice for the sake of practicing Dharma. So I don't think there's really any other aims or goals that any of you have in mind for having come here today. We all have this opportunity to come together and to practice, to listen to the Dharma, to contemplate it, and to meditate upon it. And this is because of wonderful karma, and good aspirations that we've been able to come together like this. And so this is all for the sake of practice again. If we just came together for no reason, just to get together, then actually nothing would come of it. It wouldn't really work out for us. But I have faith that all of you have this kind of good aim to practice the Dharma, that you come here in order to practice. And so today we will be talking about the method of liberation. And that this is something that if you're able to implement, if you're able to put it into practice, then it will really be of benefit. It will really help you. And so there's this great hope for us that if we implement the sacred Dharma, if we put it into practice, then we will be able to attain the state of bliss to bliss, from every bliss to every bliss. And so there's really great auspicious circumstances among us today. So we really need to think like that. So here today I have the thought to benefit all of you, to be of some kind of help for your practice, but this really relies on all of you actually putting these things into practice. So it's important for us when we talk here about the view, the meditation, and the conduct, it's important for us to have an understanding of that in our minds, to keep those things in our minds. And if we're able to keep the view, the meditation, and the conduct in our mind, then it will really be a benefit us. It will benefit us in this life, not only in this life, but also in the next life. Otherwise, if we go around without having the view, meditation, and conduct in our mind, without keeping this in our mind, then there won't be any benefit. There won't be any benefit in this life, let alone in the next life. There won't be benefit in any of our lives, and there won't be any kind of great meaning to that. So we need to understand that we want to be practitioners, but we want to be practitioners not just in name only. We want to actually authentically have the name of practitioner and put these things into practice. So we need to understand what is it that we need. What we need is to have the view, have the meditation, and have the conduct. So when we talk here about the view, the meditation, and the conduct, we're talking about what it is that we need to practice. So it's important for us to know what it is that we need to practice. And therefore, it's also important for us to know what the ground, path, and fruition is. We need to gain an understanding of those three aspects, the three aspects of the ground, the path, and the fruition. And based on having an understanding of that, then we gain certainty. And we need this certainty in order to have a good practice, in order to have a complete practice. So it's important to understand this point. So the great Longchenpa, he wrote a text called the liberation of the nature of mind in Dzogchen. And in the first chapter, he talks about the ground. And he says that through realizing the ground, one is liberated. And we talk about the ground. What is the ground? The ground is the nature of mind. And so it is through knowing this, through knowing the ground, the nature of mind, that one is liberated. So through realizing the ground, one is liberated.
니시대기 진짜가 요마와 그 제거랑 니시메라와 니시메데 니시대기 진짜마고 냠내체 공바데 요마레스 어떤 데인지 따서 뜬다고 가서는 똑비 들어가대 용도 구마레스 가르제 똑비 들어가 제거랑 하고니 들어가대 용도 구마레스 니시대 메송아이나 이제 똑비 들어나더니 되게 되네 냠내데 그래스 근데 이제 똑비 들어가서 이제 송바레스.
So when the great Longchenpa, he says that one is liberated through realizing the ground. What do we mean when we use this phrase, to realize something? Well, that means to gain certainty, to take something to heart. And so if we don't have this kind of realization of the ground, then we don't have certainty. And if we don't have certainty, then there's really no way for us to engage in practice. And so if we don't have certainty, then there's no way for us to be liberated through realizing the ground. So that's what was taught in this first chapter of the self-liberation of the nature of mind by Longchenpa. And so in the second chapter, he says that one is liberated by cultivating the path. And so when we talk about cultivation, we talk about meditation, we talk about practice. And so it is only through engaging in the practice, engaging in this cultivation of the path, that one gains this kind of liberation. So in the first chapter he discusses the ground, in the second chapter he discusses the path, and in the third chapter he discusses the result, which is the final achievement of the other two. And so there he says that one should rely on the great spontaneous presence of the fruition. So again, we talk about these three aspects of the ground, path, and fruition. And the ground is something that needs to be realized. The path is something that one needs to gain experience and one needs to cultivate that. And when we talk about the fruition is something which is spontaneously present, it's spontaneously accomplished. It's something that's there from the very beginning. It's primordially present, spontaneously accomplished. And so when we talk about the essence here, we say that the essence is this primordial purity, and the fruition there is spontaneously present.
조가 지금 냠녀랑 그랬어요. 드리어랬어요. 조가 지금 냠녀세나 가서 냠바니 냠녀랑 그래. 농침바도 송래. 조가 지금 냠녀랑 그 내가 당보가 까나요? 드리 찍고 송이었을 때. 내가 당보가 까나요? 가서 이제 토피 들고야라. 아니 람곰비 들고야. 아니 드리버 가서 나타니 가서 선들도 똑고 봐라. 이 선들 그때 때 똑고야. 어떤 지대에나 나 송바레스.
So there's also another text by the great Longchenpa that's called the self-liberation of equality, of the nature of equality. And in the first chapter he says exactly what we've just gone through. He says that the ground is something that needs to be liberated. That needs to be realized in order to be liberated. The path is something that needs to be cultivated in order to be liberated. And the fruition, we must realize the spontaneous presence of the fruition in order to get liberated.
냠뇨 요용디 타서 따더니 이제 똑비고 거네더니 항상 소라테네다 간데 지금 니마레진 무책이 나와 항상 소라타다 이제 세디타서 삼로 자나지 땅고 말했어 이제 세디타서 항상 소비타다 같은 가르쳐놨더니 니마레진 항상 소카서나 너무 똑같이 샤롱문가 남쪽지 샤롱문가 네게 나한테 이제 문제가 보냈어 하고서 다른 소라나 남쪽다 삼삼마삼고 약혼득신 삼삼마 약혼득신 너는 남쪽 생긴 차선람을 샤롱가 내가 다음에 이제 그런더니 그 뭐데 하고 그랬어 또 그랬어 네 다음에 이제 그 람신데 하고 소이나 다도 탐지 랑사더니 절로 그랬어 이제 또 비주와세나 다 전지를 그랬어.
So what's the primary thing here, the most important aspect here? That is, as Longchenpa said, is that we must realize the ground in order to get liberated. And so this is something that we need to experience, that we need to gain certainty in. And so what is it that we do here? Well, it is in terms of the ground, the nature of the ground, that whatever kind of thoughts that arise in our daily life, in this life that we have right now, whether they be good thoughts or bad thoughts, if we can recognize the nature of the ground in those thoughts, then that will be able to liberate us. So it's very, very important for us in our daily lives to be able to practice this, to be able to recognize the nature, the essence of the ground in any of these thoughts that arise to us throughout the day. Zambo tang namba da sofa kanda jig namba kanda jig sharna tega garsana tele arangsola tele ne kanso parchiga jig mares tuzo chama chachib ge lamse bora chachib ge chokse bora nyamne ge chokla shane chonlo gres otare ndesta je munzen sa de ne je topa da munzen sa de la tene ka je de la nishi ya go bora otare ji mo munzen ta de ha go so ina cholu ge de ni yenden tuzo chama de ha go gres So in order for us to realize the nature of the ground here, we need to set aside these kinds of distinctions that we have in terms of our thoughts, these different aspects of having good and bad, certain thoughts arising and thinking like, oh, this is something good, this is something wonderful, and other things being seen as bad or awful. And so as long as we have grasping towards these kinds of things, making these distinctions as some things being good and some things being bad, then there's no way to gain liberation there. As long as we're talking about the essence of things, if we're talking about the nature of things, then there's no kinds of distinctions there between things being good or bad. And if we have certainty in this idea, certainty in the idea that in the essence or nature of things, there's no distinction of good and bad, then there won't be any kinds of obstacles that would arise to us because of such distinctions. And so actually, these things that these aspects of good and bad can become an aid for our practice if we're able to see their essence. And so in order to recognize the nature of the ground, we need certainty. We need to gain this certainty. And if we have certainty in the ground, in the nature of the ground, then it becomes a way for us to get liberated. If we don't have that kind of certainty, if we don't understand what the key points are with regard to that, then there's no way for us to get liberated. Zamba?
Zamba is
Sangngak.
Plastic.
So now it's important for us to consider what it is that we have, what it is that we possess. And what we possess is a jewel. In fact, it's the real jewel, it's the real thing. And so we need to understand that we possess this jewel. And through understanding that we possess this jewel, we need to recognize its value. We need to understand its value. And so if we don't recognize that we have this jewel, and we don't understand its value, then it's something that we just toss away. We just set it aside. And then what do we start doing? We start going after other kinds of jewels. But then in the course of going after other kinds of jewels, we're actually pursuing the fake jewels. These jewels which aren't real. So we might up getting some kind of something made out of plastic that's actually not the real thing. And so the real thing is actually what we have, and so we need to recognize that we have this real jewel, this authentic jewel is something that we possess. And so if that's something that we just throw away, that we just toss aside, then there's a real risk of us ending up with a bunch of fake jewels.
Ranganla yobate ngaraso la samala ta namjishigi yote ngaraso semme bachi yomama ngaraso la semni norbote ngaso chasangla yoste semni ku norbo semni norbote ngaraso chasangla yoste 근데 인디다도 되게 렌탕 하고 야다 대랑이시 니고 대라트네 가서나 되네 가서나 렌탕때 하고 이대랑이 시우고 야다 기침을했어 근데 인소아이나 노르테 렌탕 하거나 아니 가르 좀 그래 노르테디 군든 좀 그랬어 군든 하고서 군든 쓰나 노르테 되니까 노르게는 나한테 하고 있나 노르테라 다고야 보자서나 하나 강도 받은 좀 그랬어 노르디 군든 좀 그랬어.
This jewel that we're talking about, this is something that we have, this is something that we possess, and so it's important, it's really important for us to understand that not only do we possess it, but to understand its value. So when we talk about ourselves, we all have minds, we all have consciousness. None of us do not possess such a mind. And so when we talk about this mind of ours, this mind is the jewel that we're talking about. And so it's important for us to understand the value of mind, the value of this jewel and to gain certainty in the value of that. If we're able to appreciate the value of this jewel, this real jewel that we possess, then all of our desires will be fulfilled from that. So in order to fulfill all of these desires that we have, all of these wants and wishes that we have, we need to understand the value of what it is that we possess, and that this is something that's complete in all of us. This is something that we all have. And so normally, when we think about the things that we want, we think that we need to get these things based on other things, based on other people, other things, other circumstances, things outside of ourselves. We think we need to depend on those to get the things that we want. But actually, when we talk about what it is that we have, this jewel that we have, that we possess, this is actually the most precious thing. And therefore, we don't need to expect things from others. We don't need to expect gaining things from other people, other things, other circumstances. We need to have trust, faith in ourselves, trust in what we have, that we already possess this precious jewel. And we also need to understand that having this jewel, possessing this jewel, it doesn't matter where we go. There's no risk of losing it. We won't lose this jewel that we have wherever we go. And so then, therefore, no matter what happens to us, whether it be good or bad, whether we meet with good circumstances, bad circumstances, everything will aid our path of liberation through understanding what we possess, through understanding this jewel that we possess. So first, what we need to do is we need to understand the value of this jewel. And again, this jewel is the very mind that we have. So this nature of mind that we have, this jewel that we have, is something that we can't ever lose. It's something that can never be stolen from us. La Rinpoche, lasa.
Ne Rinpoche pero watne.
Lasa.
Rinpoche pite teni yapjarbu gisen ta cho sajat la pede ta ngege norbe de choran kharsons teni. Rinpoche jarbu patsabre wat bu patsabre watne. Bu patsab sena ko son. Saw do sunsin. Te marate jan jana chirta. Saw jarbu le. Jarbu unda bote teni. Jarbu unda bote ta korong te la te jarbu purwa pensabra watne. Pensare de ko ta no ba jarbu getene no ba tia da de de ko pira watne. Ko lumbu samagi jin jakob chunda ga so ta ko pigo desne. Ko be muti charan des. Rinpoche pigo desne. Rinpoche pia ta che desne. Rinpoche jakob na de ma choya ko so. Norba de choron kerson so de Rinpoche ge so ba desne. Nege na ma tamchi yibjin norba desne. Ko ge na ma sena ko so. 나와 딱은 나와 입신 노를 때서 이 나와 담치 입신 노를 했어. 약 그 노를 되게 나다 가르쳐 버렸어. yapsena korong ko
say
yapsena jarbu 파 father said Marat, Yapson. Yapku Noru taken Malakini, Nawa Sama, Yvzin Norris, Yapku Noru, Malakanchi. Dakanova, Yvzin Noru, the Yapin Nori, Dalachisha, Yapku Noru, getting Ala, Chikubayo, Marasora, Nawa Sama Norris, the Charas. Semia Tana, Nawa Sama Noru,
said Kadisi.
Semia Korotani, number Tasma, Nawa Sama Norris. Mr. Gitia, who will overtake. Where your mama, what a big Taras. Who can substance our song, the subject. In Grumbuche, any gentleman, no budget and a genetany, Lumbutozoga, Grumbuche, the Jara, the Kupi, who is Pivares. Peace in Hakoson, Pila. Any court that puts a pity Tasoko, German about the Pangrava, Grumbuche, the Taco Carchi, Santana Pizana, Tigmar, hanging Norway the Charan Kersons. Jabu, Norum Grumbuche, the Tier. Rinpoche not Gugumares, me no what's on Norris, Yamjin Norwegian Archibald Somalis.
So there's one story about Padmasambhava, and there was this great king, Bodhi, and he adopted Padmasambhava, and then at some point, apparently Padmasambhava broke the law. And so he was forced to leave the country. And so his adopted father, the king, was then very upset about this and tried to help his adopted son in some way. And so he said, please, I have this jewel to give you. Please take it with you wherever you go. And so the king was really hoping that Padmasambhava would take this jewel. But then Padmasambhava said that for me, whatever appears is a wish-fulfilling jewel. So therefore, what need would I have for this jewel that my father's trying to give me? And so if the mind is pure, then everything that appears is a jewel.
Boudha Pebroches, the book in Sami Chambu, this Ra, Rinpoche Latini, Dandeshia, Circle Vares, Sirma Botanity, Mandela Sirpinra, Circle Natani, Dig, Padana, letting Rinpoche Lata, the Dandeshan Consul Rinpoche, Jabu Kursonse, Boudha Pebroches, and Syria Pires. Peditas of Congress, Circuichimaga, Circuichimas and Agoson, Circuichima. The Sirma Torjas, Sala. Rinpoche said some tortures. And it need that the Lumbu does the Danesha was a pet power, Panglet. I'm also put Jabu Pekani Jabju, Serra, some Rinpoche torts and the Cope Power Chance. They think Rinpoche Harvard, the Pound, semi pounds and Agozon. Harvard does then Sadrigi, Salaparatin, Saparakam, and Resident. Need no time to serious. Chijabu Poke Sergungala, then. Kubai was in Nova Series, and also you mentioned data that's in it, Sapara and the Rich Lene, also the Dandy and Grumwich Channel, and the Chasan channels.
So there's also another story that during the time of the Tibetan king Trisung Tenzin, that the king wished to invite Padmasambhava to Tibet, and so he sent some emissaries to go meet Guru Rinpoche in Parping. And so the emissaries, they brought an offering of a mandala of gold to Guru Rinpoche, and they were hoping to persuade Padmasambhava to come to Tibet with this offering of gold. And so they approached Guru Rinpoche and they presented this offering of gold to him, and they said, please, this is from the king of Tibet, please come to Tibet. And so then Padmasambhava reached out and he grabbed a fistful of gold dust and he tossed it all into the air. And then the emissaries of the king of Tibet were very, shocked by this, and they were kind of upset. And they were thinking, we worked so hard, we traveled so long to bring this wonderful offering of gold to Padmasambhava, and now he just tosses it into the air. And so Padmasambhava, he understood this. He understood that they were very upset by this. And so then he said this to them. He said that everything that appears to me is the nature of gold. And so then he lifted up a fistful of dirt, and he said, look into my hand. And then when they looked into his hand, then the dirt had become gold. So when we talk about the nature of our mind, then this is the greatest jewel. If our perception is pure, then this nature of mind is the greatest jewel. It's the most precious thing. And so this is why it's very important for us to have certainty in the nature of mind. We need to develop this certainty and this confidence in the view. We need to have certainty in the value of what we have, of what we possess, this nature of mind. And then through having this certainty in the view, then we can practice. And when we practice, we can bring whatever appears into our practice, whether it be good or bad or whatever appears to us, whatever occurs to us, will then end up aiding our practice, will benefit our practice. And so this is why it's really important to be certain in the view, to be certain in the idea that this mind of ours, this mind nature of ours, is really a jewel. It's something very precious. And so through realizing the ground, then we are liberated. So then when we talk about this second aspect of the path, again it was said that it is through cultivating the path that one is liberated. So when we talk here about cultivation, we're talking about practice. So it's very important for us to practice, and we need to practice with having this certainty in the view. However, just having the view itself is not enough. This is something that we need to train in. This is something that we need to implement. We need to put it into practice. Otherwise, if we just have the view and we don't end up training in that, then it's something that we'll end up losing. And so usually when I talk about practice, I say it's important to have three things. It's important to have non-distraction. It's important to not forget. And it's also important to not get confused or deluded. And so this is something that we need as our foundation in order to practice.
so 어떤 리그든 다 남진세나 드레스 근데 then 리버데 가르치겠으나 리버 렌드 쳔고 서바든 리버 렌드 때는 또봐 렌드 또봐 세데 다타니 가르스나 알아서 그때는 네 한다 컨셉을 때는 진 만바이나다 진 상보이나다 진나상은 뭐지기로 왔든 진 그거한테 마송봐 하고서 진 그거한테 마셔봐 따와대 집 똑비게 따와대 요소와이나 진 그때는 왕라 로마레스 진 때니 가르스나더니 진 상보이나다 만바이나다 두서 탐지 가르스나 알아서 그냥는 그 조글라 샤다 그랬어 냠는 그 조글라 샤를 어디 다 썼더니 다대 그때 마서 그 컨셉을 했다 알아서 남진 아따 징은 반체에서 내가 짜지야 지고 왔더니 징은 반체기를 당에 가르치고 그러니 징은 바센나더니 가르치 동면적으로 삼삼지겨라 근데 샘저때 라로 그랬어 그 샘저때 매바샤 그랬어
가리기
디 다다더니 가르스나 소소그 따와대는 이시 아버지고 그러거든 따와는 이시 냠는 아버지고나 징은 안바이나다 징 상보이나다 대라 냠는 제당대 하고 그랬어 진 안바이나요 그 냠는 그 조글라 착그래 진 장보에 나야 냠는 거 조금 차가랬어. 되게 청거 말했어. 청거 말. 만점에 어디 타서 떠니까 선다. 그래서 오늘 찡만 받아 전에더니 다 가르치고 그래. 삼는 감짝지 열어 봐. 감짝도 소더니 라로 그랬어. 대신한테 보고 말했어. 매바 창로 그랬어.
So then when we talk about the third aspect here, the third aspect is the result or the fruition, and it said that we must realize the great spontaneous presence of the result. And so what we're talking about here is we're talking about not falling under the power, not falling under the influence of positive or negative circumstances, whatever occurs to us. And so if we have certainty in the view, then whatever kind of circumstances, whether they be positive or negative, will actually become aids for our practice. They will really benefit our practice. So normally, for example, if we meet with some kind of difficult experience or some kind of negative circumstance, then we develop some kind of anxiety because of that, or some kind of fear, and we think, oh, how awful this situation is, what should I do, what do I need to do in the situation? However, if we have certainty in the view, then we will lose that fear, we'll lose that kind of anxiety, we'll know how to practice, we'll know how to incorporate these things into our practice and use them as aids for our practice.
창세야 돼요. 전다 제요 말했더니. 그런데 징은 무릎세 징은 바지 당부 유니 무릎에 차요 왔더니 이제 그까지 말했더니 징은 무릎세야 돼. 간절해서 했더니 징은 바세야 지금더니 가서 나랑서 그랬더니 징은 바래 산에 송바데 징은 바게 ram신 맞아봐. 징은 바게 ram신 지금 매봐. 돈도 이해니 가서는 넘버 딱 봐봐. 들고 가서는 이시그 따와대 이시지고 라데. 되게 진짜 와서 이나다더니 tamjin yamna sharwa de de jingen mudrup si la baras rema to jingen mudrup se ni chikaga jing ngamba ji yo ani to zongbo ji ga ji ka cha maras
ken ne ba
jing ngamba ji drumni ra jing ngamba ji ro jing ko drumni teni ka sa na de pa jer cha ro de ni maras jingen mudrup se mudrup se na ya po ji ga ko ro wa mudrup ya po ji ga ko de ta mudrup jingen mudrup ka cha maras na jing ngamba se de ngamba ko ro gram jin de ma pa ji ko gram jin de ye ni na ba ta ba ba 그 미시대 영원히 타서 그 냠나다 차로 냠나다 차송받을 때는 찡은 우주시 라바레스 찡은 람체시 라바레스.
So actually it's said in some of the texts that negative conditions are siddhis. They're the siddhic accomplishments. And why is that? Well, it's because when we talk about these negative circumstances, normally we think that these kind of conditions that we encounter are something that are established by their nature, they're inherently established. But actually, they're not truly established. They are not inherently established. They're actually primordially pure. They're pure from the very beginning. That's their nature. And so if we're able to gain certainty in this understanding that the nature of these negative circumstances is something that's pure, then we can practice with it. We can practice with whatever occurs to us. Whatever occurs to us, we'll be able to take them onto the path. And so this is how they become then these siddhis. 그래, 갱행 무주.
와서 징은 무드세 징은 람체세나 와. 근데지 영화 뜻진 그런 그 람진 맞죠. 그 람진 얘니 남을 딱 봐야 봐라. 간에 딱 봐야 된다고 했더니 람진데라 이시 어디다 뜨는 거 남나 찾아봤어. 남나 찾아는데 될라더니 가르스나. 근데 징은 람체세나 징은 무드세 근데 징은 막 되게 찾아서 여신 남아 체리까 참 말했어. 근데 그만 주 가닥세가 와. 주 담지 얘니 딱 봐. 간에 딱 봐야 봐라. 람진 지 가가지 가르스나 마다바지 있더니 쇼치가 카카라 카레트 리지 요마레스트네. 쇼치가 마타바지 카카라라 디지 빵마제 요마트 리마레스. 빵마트니 탐치 디니 딱비거든 그랬더니 따비기 시요 소이나 다 세랑 따비지로 세르그랑 남경아서 빼셔요. 세랑 따비지가 무보시한다 담카지 함다더니 세르그랑 하고서 세기는 세기는 무보시한다 담카지 함에 봤다고 차원데 탐치더니 든르거든요. 냠나라 잡아요 그랬더니 세르그 나나 무부 전다 담가 제요 말아. 선남지 따바시게요. 세르그 링지요나 디나나 무부 팔바 담지 담야 요래. 그래서 담야 요나 세르그는 차가 말아. 어떤도 그랬어. 주 담지 가서나. 가다 갔더니 이제 가다가 제지 냠는 책이요 말아야 돼. 이제 가다가 제지 냠는 책이요 되다. 따디나나 마타 비게 찡간지 당 가르티그 람진 주고 코트고 말았어. 맞죠? 바게든 그 따위니시 내용 되게 진짜요 되다서더니 가르스나더니 징은 탐지 무줍세나 람세나 작세야 돼. 그 람세 강에 받는 게 시요네. 근데 잡아냈어. 님는 제지 단위도 잡아냈어.
So again, when we're talking about all these different kinds of circumstances, all these conditions that we encounter, there's something that are not established by their nature. They're not truly established, and they're pure from the very beginning. They're primordially pure. And then if we're able to understand that and gain certainty in that, then that's what becomes the path. And so we need to recognize that the nature of all conditions, of all circumstances, of all phenomena is this primordial purity. So it's not that on one side we have things that are impure, things that we need to get rid of, and then on the other side we have things that are pure, things that we need to take up. That's not actually the case. It's the case that the nature of all things is this primordial purity, and so this is what we need to gain certainty in. So for example, if we're talking about an island of pure gold, when we talk about that kind of island, then there's nothing on that island which is not the nature of gold. It's all the nature of gold. There's nothing kind of ordinary or anything that we need to get rid of there. It's all gold. And so likewise, when we're talking about the nature of all phenomena, when we're talking about the nature of the ground, of everything, that's the nature of this primordial purity. So it's important then for us to have certainty in this idea, to have certainty in the primordial pure nature of all things. And then based on that, then we can engage in the practice. Then with that understanding, that becomes the practice.